Hey 49er fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into today's video. Before we start though, give me a player, and maybe it's Deshaun Watson or somebody else, you want the 49ers to trade for this offseason. We're diving into potential trade packages, trade pieces the 49ers can add to their team. I want to hear your guys' pick first before we start. All right, so as you see in the title of this video, there have been a lot of, just say, rumors about certain players and teams trading away star players overall. And I decided to go ahead and break down the 5 big names the 49ers could trade for this year, or at least have been rumored to be linked to potentially in a future trade in 2021. Doesn't mean any of these will come true, doesn't mean any of these could even remotely happen, but these are the 5 names I think that are big names that you could look to see the 49ers add if they want to make a massive splash here in terms of a trade this offseason. The first of which is one we talk about like each of the last 7 days, it feels like, Deshaun Watson. You've heard the story, you've heard the rumors, you know what we're going to talk about here, but we got to mention it. Deshaun Watson, he of course reportedly wants out of Houston, although according to a report, I think yesterday or the day before, he is not officially asked to be traded by the Texans, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't want to be traded. I think it means he clearly does want to be traded, and as we heard from Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport and multiple reporters at major networks, teams have been calling about acquiring Deshaun Watson, and so we expect the Niners to at least make a call because guys like Michael Irving and Jerry Rice and Steve Young and a lot of the former great 49ers have all said, go get Deshaun Watson because even though he would cost a fortune, he could make your team, perpetually competitive in the postseason and maybe make a couple runs at a Super Bowl. So, as we're going to do with each of these players, my mock trade, what I think it would take to go ahead and do this deal. Not what I would want to give up, what I think it would actually take to go ahead and trade for any of these 5 players, and you see it on your screen right now. Texans get a 2021 first, a 2022 second, and Nick Bosa. And that's the format and the formula to go ahead and trade for Deshaun Watson. Whether you like it or not, it will take 2 first-round draft picks and a star player. Not 2 first-round draft picks and a mediocre player like Dre Greenlaw, who's good but not an elite player. It would take Warner, it would take Bosa, it would take Armstead, it would take a star player, okay? And people are going to complain about that all they want in the chat down below, and I understand that because we don't want to get rid of Nick Bosa. I do not. But if you want Deshaun Watson as one of the elite quarterbacks in the National Football League, you have to give up elite talent overall. That, to me, would get the deal done. I think the Texans would take that deal, nothing less. 2 first and no player would not happen, and we need to understand that and recognize that here as we start off this video. We understand how great Watson is. Listen, what do you want me to say? Best young quarterback in the National Football League, one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. In terms of the past couple of years, he would make the 49ers, so scary and so competitive. And you can only imagine how great the offense would be with him and Kyle Shanahan. And that's why, again, we lead with this video with him, because if they were to acquire him, it's not only a massive blockbuster trade, it cost a lot. And honestly, it has huge ramifications just in the entire National Football League. It would be absolutely crazy. And I would love it. I would absolutely love it. So Watson here comes on our list with the first player that they could trade for. Quickly here, pin comment down below. Keep giving me those answers on players you want the 49ers to trade for. Is it Watson? Is it somebody else? Before you see me announce the next 4 players, give me yours down below in the comment section. All right, let's move on to, let's just call him the cheaper quarterback option. And I could have done a whole video on like 6 quarterbacks they could trade for because Matt Ryan's in there, and you can obviously throw in a guy like Sam Darnold or Matt Stafford, but I think the other logical quarterback the Eagles or the 49ers could trade for is Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz. So, we mentioned this a couple weeks ago, that Carson Wentz and the Eagles have a ton of drama right now, and even though reportedly they're trying to find a head coaching candidate, or maybe by the time you watch this video, have found a head coaching candidate who wants to build around Carson Wentz and rebuild and remend that relationship, the Eagles could still be in a position where they eventually have to trade Carson Wentz because the relationship might be beyond repair. And with that being said, if you wanted to go ahead and trade for a quarterback that's not as expensive as Deshaun Watson, I think you could get Carson Wentz for the following trade. I think you give up a second and a 5th, and that would get the deal done. I think Eagles are going to try for a first-round draft pick. I don't think they get a first-round draft pick for Carson Wentz based on all the drama he has caused them over the past, let's just say, 12 calendar months going back to 2019. And so I think you do it for a second. You throw in a later-round draft pick to sweeten the deal. I think Philadelphia, if they're in a spot where they need to trade Carson Wentz, would go ahead and do that. Who wins that trade? San Francisco or Philly? Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments section. Honestly, I think that both teams would find this very even. I mean, I think Philadelphia would be happy to get a second-round draft pick and think lucky to get a second-round draft pick. And I think the Niners would be a lot better with Carson Wentz potential versus the Garoppolo potential, because Garoppolo might be better right now based on what we saw from Carson in 2020. But the future, glass half full or ceiling, we should say, of Carson Wentz, I would argue, overall is higher right now than Jimmy Garoppolo. We mentioned the 2020. You see the stats on your screen. He was awful in 2020. But really, the hope is you trade for Carson Wentz, whoever trades for him, or Philly keeps him, you get 2017 Carson Wentz, where everybody basically and unanimously agreed he was the MVP candidate until he got injured there in Week 15. And then, of course, beaten out by Tom Brady, who went on to lose to Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. Okay, before we get into our next player here, who's also, a little tease alert, a Houston Texan, quick shout out to our friends at BetUS, chatsports.com/49bet. Niners125 is the promo code. That's where you go to go 3-0 on your weekend betting, just like I did last week. And so I said I give shout outs, and I'm going to give some more shout outs here to the guys who actually went 3-0 on our Twitter challenge as well. But first off, my locks this week: Packers are going to beat the Bucks straight up. I mean, the Chiefs are going to beat the Bills, and then go ahead and give me that Packers-Chiefs Super Bowl matchup. That's the one I want to see the most. It's the most exciting Super Bowl matchup out of the 4 potential ones, we should say, overall. But with that being said, a lot of you guys went to our Twitter handle @Chat49ers, this is the Twitter handle for the Chat Sports 49ers Twitter page, and replied to one of our questions saying, give me your 3 bets of the weekend. And Miguel0506, Joseph USA, Joseph SO USA 157, and Leon the G1 all went 3-0 in their picks. A lot of people didn't get 3 for 3. I am one of them, though. So shout out to me, and then Miguel, Joseph, and Leon are the 3 people who got their picks. So get your next picks in with our friends at BetUS. Again, chatsports.com/49bet. Use that promo code Niners125. Get a 125% deposit bonus whenever you put down your first $100 to bet on the championship games and win some money like I did this weekend. Okay, next player. How about J.J. Watt? Again, these are big names. Not little names, big names. A Watt trade would be a massive trade overall for the 49ers. And as we've seen over the offseason, really, the past couple of weeks, it's very clear that J.J. Watt wants to play for a winner. And it's very clear the Texans are not going to be a winner anytime soon, especially if they trade Deshaun Watson to somewhere not named San Francisco. So let's say Watson leaves. You can still make a trade with the Texans if you're the 49ers and go ahead and acquire a star pass rusher like J.J. Watt. The question here, though, how much does Watt have left in the tank, right? Because he's a great player, had a couple of injuries, was good this past year, but he's not at, I would argue, an elite level right now. But you pair with Nick Bosa, and maybe the eliteness comes back into its full force. My mock trade here, I think it's very simple. A third-round draft pick would do the deal. I mean, this is not the J.J. Watt of 13, 14, when he was the MVP, the defensive MVP of the league. You're not getting 13 to 15 sacks a year out of J.J. Watt, so it won't take a first or a second. Texans straight up, third round draft pick will do it, and will mean the Texans go ahead and get an extra draft pick, and they free up the cap space that, of course, comes with the Watt contract. As I said, Watt last year, good. I mean, he's still a great player, and I think in the right system he could be even better, but only 5 sacks. This is not somebody, like we said, who's going to get you 17 or 18 or even 15 sacks in a year. But if you were to pair him with Kinlaw and Armstead and Bosa and put him as the 4th pass rusher up there, and then you rotate Kerry Hyder in, it would be fun. So I'm all for this. Listen, I'm all for this overall. J.J. Watt to me would be a great addition, and he wouldn't cost too much just based on the fact that he's a little washed, even though I still respect him. Okay, I know you've already noticed it, but I mean, give me a grade, right? The stash. The stash is back. You probably saw it at the beginning of the video and you were like, wow, Thomas, great mustache. Like, I missed it when you had it like 6 months ago, and now you can bring it back again. Big fan of it. A+ down below. Give me a grade on the stash. I don't want to see any Fs. Like, don't be a stash hater, right? Because growing a mustache is difficult, let's just say that. And 2, it's not for everybody. I don't think I look fantastic with it, but it looks good enough to keep for the next couple of days. So give me a grade on the stash, right? Also, while you guys are down there, subscribe to the 49ers Report, because not only do we have great mustaches here, we also cover the 49ers week in and week out, and really any updates regarding your team, San Francisco, we cover here on the channel. Another name we talked about a lot here, we'll throw it up there, Stephon Gilmore. Of course, he was supposed to be shopped at the deadline this past year with New England. They no longer traded him. And now with the 49ers having seemingly every single cornerback as a free agent this year, you make the case that Stephon Gilmore could be a nice trade package, a nice trade piece to bolster a secondary that's going to lose some of these free agents, whether it's all or one, we don't really know. I think, again, it's cheap. 3rd round draft pick. I mean, these are guys who are formerly elite players, former defensive MVPs, but currently are not at that level, and you don't have to pay a 1st round draft pick or even a 2nd round draft pick for. Maybe he would cost a 2nd, but honestly, I think you get a 3rd. And then if they wouldn't take that, throw in like a 5th or a 6th, I think a 3rd-round draft pick would go ahead and get the job done, and you acquire Stephon Gilmore. The problem is, again, you got to pay him. And the other problem is you got to keep him another cornerback opposite of him when you got Verrett and Williams and Mosley and Johnson and Taylor and Webster and Witherspoon. I mean, literally all of their corners are free agents. They need to figure out who to keep first and then go out and make a trade for a guy like Stephon Gilmore, who has been elite. I mean, you go back to 2019, 6 interceptions. He was the best cornerback in the league. Dealt with some injuries in 2020, only the 1 pick, but I think still in the right defensive system, the DeMeco Ryans defensive system. A promotion there. I saw over the weekend. We covered that. He could go ahead and do a lot of damage. And honestly, I think him and Verrett, for instance, would be a really scary pairing back on the backside of the Niner defense. Final player here. It's a guy we talked about a ton last year, was Odell Beckham Jr. You remember Odell Beckham Jr.? Everybody wanted the 49ers to trade for Odell Beckham Jr. They never did. And then, of course, he gets injured in Week 17 and tears his ACL, even though they were trying to potentially shop him at the deadline last year prior to the injury. So now with the injury in his past, could they still go ahead and try and trade for an elite wide receiver, a number 1 wide receiver? Maybe Odell could be on that list. Again, I don't think this costs a 1st or a 2nd. I think you have to go 3rd and a 5th for Odell Beckham Jr. It gets the contract away from Cleveland. Cleveland showed to have plenty of success without Odell Beckham Jr. in 2020. I think they'd go ahead and reach for this deal. What do you guys think? Would you do this trade? Type Y down below for yes, type N down below for no. If you got healthy OBJ and non-drama filled OBJ, big if. But man, it could be a lot of fun. Be a lot of fun with that. Obviously, 23 games with the Browns, it's been mediocre. He's had a lot of drama there. The Browns themselves have grown up a little bit since acquiring Odell Beckham Jr. I think right now with the Browns, he'd be really good. Come over to an even more established organization, a more established quarterback, and a young group of wide receivers, and OBJ, and then added to the current wide receiver depth chart you see right now, it's good. It's really, really good. I mean, listen, that would be a lot of fun. Again, these are all big-name players. This does not guarantee the Niners could sign one or trade for all of them. I mean, obviously they can't because you don't have so much draft capital, but could they go for one? And which big name would they go for? That's the question here. I want to present one final time. Give me the one out of these 4. Or really 5, I should say, you want the 49ers to go ahead and trade for. Let me know who they are down below in the comments section. Ultimate for today here, the 49ers report. Again, thumbs up for the stash. The stash is back, baby. I know you guys like that. Hopefully, one of these 5 players maybe could be traded, but who knows? One of them could be traded somewhere. Will be the 49ers. We'll have to wait and see. Again, ultimate for today here, the 49ers report. I'm your host, Thomas Mott, as we go ahead and sign off. You guys enjoy the rest of your